So my mother gave me a gift, and that was the gift of reading, imagination, the gift of the written word, the gift of writing, the gift of typing, the gift of not being pigeonholed in something specific. She gave me the gift of freedom that I had to learn how to manage and control, because with freedom comes responsibility. And when you have freedom, you'll make a lot of mistakes. It's those who are not free, who are pigeonholed, who have been sheltered, is those who are in a jail that are dying to break free, literally, and they don't survive their jail. And that's kind of most of people out there. So anyways, so I pay attention to stories. I pay attention to movies, storylines. I pay attention to what's splashed across the headlines, meant for almost everyone to react to. I pay attention to all the different characters, okay, all the archetypes. And I pay attention to who people identify with, the archetypes. And I pay attention to personalities. I pay attention to personality disorders. I pay attention to who is attracted to who. I pay attention to almost everything in not only my immediate environment, but also out there. And I pay attention to all the politics, all the religions, even the new ones that are springing up right now, and all the different science dogmatic principles that are offered by the luminaries in the sciences field. And so it doesn't surprise me that I figured out in my head that is to be true, because there's no way for me to know the absolute truth, whatever that is. I don't think there is an absolute truth, but that's fine. That, yeah, Men in Black, the alien stuff, is based upon the microbes in people's bodies. That's what cancer is. It's like an alien possession. It's what disease is. It's like an alien possession. Oh God, what about the ghost alien? It's all the same shit. It just has different contexts based upon your beliefs. If you're all into the supernatural and ghost hunting, okay, fine. If you're all into the sciences, trying to radiate cancer or direct energy weapon cancer, then you'll go through that side of it. If you're all about, I don't know, the whole disclosure, the alien disclosure, okay, fine. I don't know, there's endless government psychological operations that just choose whatever you want and stick with it, or understand all the storylines and find the connections between all of them and develop your own storyline around it. And there's no right one, the most right. It's all the same stuff with different jargon attached to it. Just no different than industry knowledge. The jargon attached to it. Jargon attached to the medical system, jargon attached to the legal system, jargon attached to the educational system. And they have their specific associations and certifications and all of that. So I look at everything from the entertainment perspective, the allegory. Some people will only listen to the Bible and that's it. And you're like, oh gosh, if that's your only purview is through revelations in the Bible, you have blinded yourself to so much more out there. That any other storyline that is presented to you is like, oh gosh, it's blasphemy. When you're told you're supposed to die someday, and here's a religion and a politics and a science to support that, and then someone says, maybe you didn't have to die someday. People will go to blows for challenging the story that was given to them. That's crazy, isn't it? Oh, it's not crazy. I've experienced that the last 7 years. I've always developed my own storylines around everything when I was a kid all the way up to now, because I would imagine myself to be in a different world, a different place, because growing up was difficult. It was fucking brutal. Oh, believe me, what I grew up with pales in comparison to what people are dealing with right now. The pain, the suffering, the denial. What's going on right now, I'm telling you, it's far worse than what I grew up with. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, I can handle what's going on now because I had a little bit of experience with it, but it still was very difficult. It was still a suffering, breaking into a new world and developing another storyline, which is why I posted that post that someone posted about the US and Babylon is like in the Northeast and Israel is in California. And I'm not saying that's true or not true. I don't fucking know. I don't know where they got that information from. I just read another storyline. Okay, that's fine. Not that I have any kind of investment that it's right or wrong. It's just another storyline. But what it is, when you think about what that actual post is, regardless of who made it up or who found it somewhere, it's testing to see if you're able to embrace another storyline that is in direct conflict to what you believe. And will you fight for your own storyline forever until the end of time? Or will you be like, okay, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'll be open to another storyline. That's what the system is doing. Is they're giving you all different types of storylines. Even though they gave you very specific ones that are so entrenched that if you wanted to be a Jewish and Christian and Muslim and something else, you can go and find your people, your anti-government people, and find your people and hang out with them and keep reinforcing the same storyline. But now with the internet, now you're getting exposed to all different storylines. People who are in a homogenized communities like the Midwest are now being exposed to people from outside of their little tiny town. Some don't even know how to deal with someone who's different. Believe me, that's always been my situation. I always walk into families, walk into cities, walk into states, walk into associations, companies, completely different, have different ways of looking at things, and yeah, suffer the ridicule, suffer the ostracization, suffer the freezing out, suffer the clique mentality. But that's what the system developed. Your little small town, your little homogenized small town was made for a reason. They wanted to test your cultures. They wanted to see the behaviors. When you're giving your kids pleasure in paradise and spoiling them, what will they turn out to be as adults, as well as what were they as children? Well, the system doesn't want that anymore. But there's also Tavistock and the FBI, the CIA, MI5, MI6, all those that are professional storytellers, professional storyline developers. And they have the politics, they have the science, they have the different devices, large and small, to go and support those storylines. So when you think about the whole alien agenda, okay, I don't discount that there's other beings out there. Do they look like the reptilian stuff that you see in the conspiracy world when they're like, the Anunnaki are all reptilians, and you see the Rosicrucian and all the Egyptian and Greek mythology and the different monsters, giants, and the Garden of Eden and all that. And I'll say, when you think about what they're basing those creatures off of, is through the electron microscope, when you think about it. And through that electron microscope, when you do play with genetics and you hybridize different things, you could get something that would be like half human, half horse, half human, half reptile, half human, half this, or whatever percentages. But is your society equipped to deal with that kind of diversity that you see like in Star Trek, that you see in Star Wars? Because that's essentially what the system was trying to show you, is that they can develop any storyline. You could have so many different types of creatures and you can hybridize them, but that would cause a lot of chaos, especially with people who are stuck in their religions. The Bible, whether it's the Old Testament, the New Testament, I don't care, what religion you are, when you are so steadfast and believe in one way and the only way, and you see someone walking down the street and they're like half horse and half human, people who are different don't survive. Just look at the transgender community. Just look at the LGBTQ community. What they have suffered. The Black population, the Asian population, the Jewish population. Oh, you name it. Every single race, whether it's white, black, Mexican, whatever, has suffered under the ridicule and ostracization of those who are so homogenized and so intolerant that you couldn't introduce something like a hybridized human that's half reptile and half human, half this or half that, or 20% this and 10% this. And blah, blah, blah. So the whole alien agenda, when you think about it, it really is the microbes in the body that are in a fight with you to take over and, potentially destroy or turn into some kind of who knows what if that was supported. And I don't see, here's the thing. If you were developed as a hybridized, let's just say pig human, just think of Animal Farm and George Orwell and that allegory of the pigs were in charge and they got rid of the farmers and all that. Okay, if that was the platform of that DNA structure, and then you kept dying and reproducing on that, and that was the main culture, okay, if you introduced another predominant genotype with phenotypical characteristics, it would be like a war. Who would win? Would that pig hybrid animal win versus that human? But then we're looking at humans are top of the food chain. Who is their enemy? It's themselves. All the animals, when you think about it, the pets, the farm animals, even all the animals that are in the jungle and wherever, I'm not saying that they are bad or whatever, but they're not the top of the food chain. The humans are at the top of the food chain. So yeah, when you think about it sociologically, a hybrid human animal walking down the street amongst a bunch of humans out there who don't understand that kind of shit, they wouldn't survive their community. Just look at, again, even the LGBT community. If they were stuck around those who were not LGBTQ, and the system was allowed to just eradicate those that were different, even unless they became strong and more numerous and overtook the heteros, then yeah, you would, but then, and so it's all like a fight to be king of the mountain, fight for dominance. And it's psychological, it's sociological, it's intellectual, it's biophysical. And so, and of course, science is never settled. Could a hybrid reptile human be stronger than a regular human? Well, assuming they had numbers behind them, because one regular hybrid reptile human walking down the street amongst a bunch of humans would not survive that community unless that community was tolerant to diversity and they can live, amongst each other without destroying each other. And that was, the whole point of Star Trek and Star Wars. And so Men in Black was showing you that the system, the Men in Black, it was just like back in J. Edgar Hoover days, back in the 1920s and 30s, when they were spying on people through McCarthyism, and then all the sexual stuff, and the reefer madness, and all that stuff. The whole Men in Black, I'm sure, was birthed in the early 1900s. Okay? And so that's what George Orwell, when you think about it, that's what he was referring to, is the fact that now, you're under a surveillance system, and we're allowing all types of people who might identify as whatever they identify. And you got to have tolerance. You can't come from a deadly force of eradicating something different unless you are under attack by someone. And that's why you have the law to determine, who is the aggressor and who's not. So, yeah. So anyways, let me just... And so let me just read some stuff here. Okay, so I said, the Bible isn't the only allegory you need to pay attention to. It's the movies, it's the stories, the books, history. It's also Netflix. The alien agenda, microbes superimposed. Now, I wouldn't say that, again, a system developing hybrids, because they're finding skulls with different weird, different skulls and different bone structures. Okay. Well, yeah, it means that they had a shelf life. To actually see an alien in front of you, you don't even know what you're looking at. You could be looking at Hollywood. You could be looking at holograms. Hollywood, hologram. Okay? There's so much. I would just be open to everything. To whatever the current storyline is. Be open to it. Don't resist it. Obviously, defend yourself. Survive your environment. Survive your community. Survive your friends and family. Survive. But I would be open to every single storyline that's offered to you. And if there's a main one that the system keeps promoting, doesn't mean that you resist it and try to stop it. You can still have your own storyline and still acknowledge that the mainstream has another storyline that must also be honored. And you can't convert people to stay within your storyline or even adopt another storyline. And that's why the government regulates to make sure that every storyline is honored and at least supported and tolerated. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, just tolerate it. So the alien agenda is microbes superimposed. So when you look at ants through an electron microscope, they look like little aliens. Okay? And so the Bible isn't the only allegory you need to pay attention to. It's the movies, the stories, the books of history. It's also Netflix. The alien agenda, microbes superimposed, men in black, people who you don't even know exist. They are the hidden hand. That's what I talked about yesterday. The hidden hand and the magic wand. What's the magic wand? It's invisible energy. ULF, VLF, ELF. Extremely low frequency, very low frequency. I forget what VLF stands for. Is it very low frequency? And then there is ultra low frequency. And then there is different machinery that does manipulate the weather. And then we also saw yesterday through Dubai that even a meteorologist was saying they were cloud seeding aggressively with salt. Remember I told you salt as an activation, immune system activation. Yeah, salt also amplifies the weather. It makes the weather more aggressive and everything else. It's add to it, plus then the temperatures of hot and cold and positive and negative. So you're saying that storyline coming to surface. So the hidden hand, the magic wand, there are people that you don't know exist that are pulling the strings, but it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It's just what's going on. Why do you think the system, like IFL Science and anything else, give you both sides of the story? Stay home and stay safe. Oh yeah, go out there and hang out with the eclipse. Stay home and stay safe. Don't be caught out there, but go out there. You're like, well, what should I do? Well, you choose. Be responsible for your choices. Before, they didn't even tell you both sides. They just give you one side because there was a specific purpose, an agenda. Academia was the only thing that you would listen to. Only those that had degrees that were specialized in their field were the only ones you listen to. Now with the internet and with everything, you're given all the information with the conspiracy world. That's why the conspiracy world is so important, because they can now entertain all the storylines, not be stuck with just one, but they now have to discern how much energy they give to whatever storyline. Are they going to destroy themselves by resisting, or are they going to find a way to embrace all storylines and still survive despite all the changes? And they have the gift of embracing another storyline, but then it's a question of if they let those other storylines that they embraced outside the mainstream destroy them, or give them another path to another storyline to keep evolving. See, the conspiracy world was the evolution. The mainstreamers were like the platform, the backbone. But the conspiracy world was a uracil in the evolution. But then they had to figure out the conspiracy world had to figure out how to keep evolving, not stay stuck. And so right now, people are dying from disease, labor, as the immune system is trying to push out the alien microbes or foreign particles or excessive particles in the immune system. Weak hearts and lungs and brains with weak vessels make it extremely difficult which is why die-suddenlies occur. The spontaneous, right, the invisible hand, the invisible energy, the spontaneous prostaglandins, labor pains, pushing the clots through the weak blood vessels causes ruptures. That's what die-suddenly is. It's the prostaglandins, which I studied for a few years. You remember that if you remember watching me through the last couple of years. They come from the prostate, from the male hormones, prostate, and they are the ones that induce the labor pains. They are the ones that induce the pushing of the baby out. Yes, that's the pain mechanism, the energy, and also when you're feeling your body pushing shit out of your body, when you feel your arms in pain as it's pushing those growths, clots, whatever, through your lymphatic system. Okay, when you feel pain radiate from different places, that's your prostaglandins trying to push the foreign material throughout your body to get it out to the nearest functional exit point. Okay? And so on that note, so the spontaneous prostaglandins, labor pains, pushing the clots through the weak blood vessels causes ruptures, etc. So on that note, when women with weak blood vessels go into labor after 9 months of her baby feeding on her body, mind, and spirit, some women do not survive labor pains or pushing out that baby because her heart, her lungs, and brain and body cannot handle the enormous amounts of aggressive energy it takes to push out a human, much less blood clots. So you can imagine, when you're straining to go poop and you have constipation and your poop is so hard packed and then it causes then perforations. People start bleeding out of their rectum because their poop is so hard and they're trying to release demons and they don't know how to do it. So they strain so hard that, yeah, they could develop aneurysms. They could break blood vessels, rectum muscles, whatever. So you can imagine when a mother is trying to push out a baby and she has weak brain, weak heart, weak lungs, she could be breaking blood vessels during that process. That's why some of these mothers don't survive childbirth, because she was already weak to begin with. But you can't tell these mothers out there that when they have beautiful daughters and beautiful sons and they all want to look like the traditions of big families and here we go, strength in numbers. Not necessarily. These poor women, even in Africa, are not surviving childbirth because they came into this world at a deficit. And they can't handle the aggressive, spontaneous energy. And of course, with how aggressive this environment is, even pushing out a baby could cause ruptures, aneurysms, strokes, heart attacks. So this is why you do not encourage your daughters and sons to follow the old traditions in the new world. They might not survive childbirth, child rearing, and that child might not survive childhood. And so that post about that young girl in Strongsville, Ohio, dying from a stroke or something, dying suddenly. That's why I posted a week or so ago about the 10th plague. We're in the 10th plague, dying of the firstborn, 13-year-olds, 5-year-olds, babies. It is 65 degrees out, right? Right now, it's 66 degrees, and it's like 7:30. It was 60 overnight. And I had so much growth in my nostrils. I had to blow my nose and blow my nose. Not much pain, though. I got a great sleep. My husband had great sleep. I talked to him right before I went on here. But I had a lot of mucus in my nose that needed to be released. I can only imagine those who don't have that kind of clarity in the immune system, what kind of growth they are metastasizing right now. And so cancer is born in extremely warm and accelerated environments. Weaknesses and diseases are born in extremely accelerated environments when people are not only malnourished, but starving with so much damage already they sustained from genetics, from their lifestyle, their belief system, from their habits. All parents need every bit of resources they can muster to retain and release. Every single person out there is a parent, even if they don't have children, because they are the parent cells trying to manage their juvenile cells, their somatic cells. Okay, so every single person, even if they don't have kids, have parent cells that they must manage correctly to survive. So all parents need every bit of resources they can muster to retain and release. That's why people cannot afford to be food discriminatory. You know how privileged the West is when they can deny food from themselves and still be okay with dying. Okay, the people are starving in Ethiopia, starving in third world countries, and we in the West are like, I can't eat that food. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Like actual purposeful starving themselves on diets, saying food is poison. God, you're so fucking privileged to be able to do that. The West is so privileged they have to diet, which is why the system is doing a great reset. When you have to deny food from yourself because you can't release and retain it and you have issues with air, food, and water. That's how fucked up humans are right now. They can't handle the air, food, and water in their own environment. And it sucks because it's a suffering when food is painful. It's because you're starving. You have to take the time. But again, everyone around them keeps people in jail, locked up in expectation. Because if you ever change, you know you'll be made fun of. You know your friends and family are fucking brutal when it comes to change. Fucking brutal. Worse than your enemies. Because you keep them right by your side. You take their bullshit. And at least you can walk away from your enemies. Most people can't even walk away from their husbands and wives and friends and family. Because they've weighed out the pros and cons and change was lower on the totem pole and the return on their investment outweighs more than them saving themselves. If they've already believed they should die someday, and they will die for their friends and family and their pets and their children, so then, yeah, they can't walk away because they would get a shitty return on that investment. They would be on their own and they'd be ostracized. They would have to struggle. And yeah, people are not going to do that. Most will not do that. They can't bear to be alone. Too many expectations, and they have to fulfill their duties as parents because they made those children and they signed on the dotted line. And strategy is not most people's strengths. So the ones that could walk away got fucking lucky. The ones that could walk away, I'm telling you, when your parents do walk away from you, that's probably the best thing they could do for you, because now you will figure out how to work on your own, how to do things on your own. It's when the parents stick right by you all the time, lifting you up every single time, is when people get too comfortable. They think someone else is always going to catch them when they fall. Not necessarily. And strategy is not most people's strengths. So they're resigned and they suffer and they die because they couldn't strategize themselves to survive. That's the suffering of humans. Locked up in a jail of expectation. Remember, the world has changed. What used to be your strength in numbers is now going to be working against you. The system planned it that way. You had to figure out what the fuck was going on and stop resisting. You had to find a way to strategize your surviving the people around you. But if you depend upon them so much, they will be your undoing. They wanted you to have family to develop innovation and test cultures. Because every single time you go to the doctor, they're testing your culture. Every single time something happens in that family and you go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, or sociologist, or you post on Facebook, the system is watching and surveilling your culture, your lifestyle, your belief system. Every single time you adopt a religion, you go to meetings and everything else, they're testing your culture, your lifestyle, your belief system. They're observing you. They don't want you to have big families anymore. They don't want you to be stuck in groups anymore because now it's deadly, even more so during climate change. You could say, why should we change? You could say they're doing it to us, so why should we have to change? Remember the Universe 25, all rat extinction? Pleasure in paradise causes extinction in families and societies. Unfettered reproduction, no enemies. People will F each other out of existence. They will also remedy themselves to death. Just look at the holistic world and what they're selling you to take away your life, disabling your immune system, called pain and suffering. They will keep reproducing animals and children and can't support them for so many reasons. And these children are weaker and weaker and weaker because as soon as it gets even more crowded with so many big families, resources are used up. That's why there's runts of the litter, because they weren't strong enough to gain the food. It was the strongest one that was said, hey, and they took the food and whatever's left was what the runt got, and then the runt is the runt. So then the system figured out how to use a runt of the litters, to use their brains if they couldn't use their brawn. So the strongest person that was able to get the food was used to go labor and go be a, a Thor and go fight the good fight, while the runt was used for their brain to strategize how to take down the physically strong people. And that's how the system utilizes every resource. Nothing went to waste. And so, but you don't see that in families. You have 5 kids and one kid's the runt of the litter and he's getting picked on and she's getting picked on, and then they have issues and they turn into predators because no one knew how to use their strengths, because it was always the strong guy, the one that played football, the one that was, everyone loved. And you saw that in some families, where the one that was played football and the one that was everyone's darling was all fawned upon, and the one that was the runt of the litter was then tossed to the wayside, left to their own devices. Well, the system figured out how to use even the runt of the litters. And that's great. And so, but you don't see that in all families. Okay. But the system has done all their experiments. That's what Hollywood was. You look at all the different Hollywood stars, they came from so many different situations that would seem normal to you, but there was probably contrived situations that then developed an offspring that then went into Hollywood and became a personality, a famous personality. It became a supporting actor, an actor. Okay? And so these children are weaker and weaker and weaker, because as soon as it gets even more crowded with so many big families, resources are used up. Then it will be all out human extinction. Humans have no predators except for each other. Remember how friends can turn into enemies that quickly? And it doesn't matter the reason. Shit changes all the time. Yeah, that's how shit goes. What used to be pleasure in paradise turns into downward spiral because people are weaker and fighting for resources. And the children become weaker and less tolerant and deadlier. So then you look at all those kids that are popping off or are stealthy and creeping around, have said some questionable things at certain times, and then you realize you don't want to trigger that kid when they get older, because that kid will become extremely dangerous as an adult. And so we have also produced that in the population. And you can see them. If you look at some of these kids out there in certain schools, you look at their eyes tell you everything. When you have no predators, people reproduce themselves out of existence. So then the government must regulate. You were made to be anti-government for a reason, so they can regulate you. You have to find a way to survive your friends and your family, your government, and your geography, even yourself. Some of you are your own worst enemy. You must save yourself. You must stop diluting resources away from yourself, because if you keep diluting resources away from yourself, you won't survive even your own lifestyle, regardless of where you are or how much money you have in your bank account, regardless of how many celebrities you know. Death is the ultimate equalizer. Many of you in resistance, regardless of where you are your own worst enemy. And you employ mercenaries of the system or government war proxies to keep nipping at you until you don't exist anymore. And you won't listen to me because I'm not quoting the Bible. You'll listen to stars in Hollywood, but I'm nothing to you. You won't listen to me or even consider my information because I'm not somebody in government or Hollywood or some luminary. You allow government to make mistakes. You allow doctors to make mistakes. But you won't allow me to make mistakes. What was my mistake? Following the holistic people. And so my world will go right over your head. And so my words will go right over your head. And you'll read the Bible and Revelations and still destroy yourself and then blame me for it. So let me read that again. So my words will go right over your head. And you'll read the Bible and Revelations and still destroy yourself and then blame me for it. But you listen to all those luminaries and the Bible. You listen to all those government proxies. You even listen to those in resistance to what's going on. So you have zero discernment in this new world because you're still stuck in the old world. You see how far that will get you? Right into the fucking morgue. Right into that fucking morgue. And so that story that someone just posted today, where Israel is in the west, the Great Sea is the Pacific Ocean, the Egyptian Sea is the Gulf of Mexico. Babylon and Mesopotamia is like right over where I'm at. And Assyria is like right up there in Detroit. And then Elam is like up there like in Newfoundland or Nova Scotia. And I'm like, oh God, what? So this person says, they lied to us about everything. Time and seasons and maps and our history. Let's ponder this. Well, I'm not going to read all that. But that's just another storyline, okay? I'm not saying it's true or not true. I don't know where this chick came from that posted that, where she got it from, if she's just reacting because it's just another storyline. I don't know. Okay, I'm not going to claim I know the absolute truth. So remember a long time ago when everyone had their specific story? There was uniformity. There was relative peace with a few squabbles. We learned one way how to do stuff. There were expectations. There were goals. There were dreams. Well, those days are over. Prepare for every single story you could ever imagine. And there is no harm in considering every storyline in the world. Just have discernment to figure out which ones you'll fight and die for and which ones you'll live for. I'll fight for my life. I won't die for anyone or anything. And I won't attack or harm anyone else to keep a storyline in place or adopt another one. I consider every option out there as far as a story. Okay? Even potential immortality, physiological immortality. That's abstract thinking. My hair. And expanding your brain and showing tolerance when you can actually consider a storyline that is so diametrically opposed to what it is that you grew up with. And that does require reading and comprehension, not being so narrow-minded. And I've dealt with so many narrow-minded people the last 7 years. So many narrow-minded people. So I'm an expert on dealing with narrow-minded people because they're all around me. They're everywhere. They're your Facebook audience, your friends, your family, your employer, your mom and your dad, your sister and your brother, your children. They're everywhere. And when you try to survive narrow-minded people, you might not survive the battle because you keep them right next to you and you keep fighting them and resisting them until it is mutually assured destruction. And so, my lip is all dry. Well, it's been rather warm overnight. I had to post this about how you raise geniuses in our society if that's an opportunity for someone, if they can get out of their own way. But for somebody to do well in school, somebody needs to make him or her go to bed on time, get a good 10 hours sleep. Someone must make him do his homework. Somebody must feed him breakfast in the morning, and somebody must make him mind the teacher. If those things are not done, I don't care how much money you put into the school system, education will never occur. This was said by Walter Edward Williams. So you can imagine how many people out there who didn't have parents to do these type of things and all of these things and be the bad guy. Why they won't listen to anyone but the Bible or someone they look up to, whether it's an elder or some religious figure or some Hollywood figure that they have found to be smart or whatever. So that's the issue with lack of education, is then you get people who are easily manipulated, but also can be very deadly and predatory. That's the issue with parents, a lot of parents out there who are sick and dying and don't have the energy and are also can be very abusive in how they do things too. So there's two sides to everything. But being a parent, I'm telling you, yeah, you'd have to know how weak you were and are. You'd have to be so committed to be the bad guy because you're up against society. You're up against other children who have parents who not only don't care, but who are also extremely weak in the body, mind, and spirit and will tempt your child to scribble outside the lines to such an extent that the kid is lost. And again, the system can't control that except through climate change. They can't control how you parent your kids. They can't control really too much of anything. They try to. And so that's why you have the school system. But even the homeschool system, you have these parents that, well, it doesn't even matter now at this point. But these kids have such issues with intolerance to air, food, and water that it doesn't matter what the system does at this point. So that's why the system does what it does. Okay? And so you as a parent have to know what you're up against. And if you don't, then you could be undermining their future as well as your own. So I posted a picture in the AI with Men in Black. And the prompt was that I posted, it was like Men in Black standing on clouds, spraying the earth with water, and then the chemtrails and the CERN and all that stuff. And that's just kind of what's going on. But I mean, nothing is poison per se when you think about it. It's just immune system activation. That's why the system got on me way a long time ago about the salt, because they're using the salt to activate the environment, the stratosphere, cloud seeding. So I was just like the system, activating people's immune system, causing, yes, the body to finally push things that should be pushed through, but people weren't prepared to support that. And I get that. That was one side of it that I had to learn how to support immune system activation. And we learned that. And that's why I said my mistake was adopting the holistic world, because they were just as bad as the allopathic world, if not worse. And we embraced all food to support immune system activation. So you can imagine that's now the evolution of the JG's protocol, is to support immune system activation, not attack anything, but support it and release the way I have in my book. Then you can only imagine when there is immune system activation in your environment called weather activation. You still have to eat for that. That actually influences your heart, your lungs. I can tell, like the last couple of days, I haven't had too much of the heart palpitations. Because it's been hot and warm, but I didn't feel too much of that energy. And so I've been relatively feeling okay. A little bit of arm pain, but no big deal. But when they do turn on those engines to cause then activation through the heart, the CERN, and all that stuff, then you'll feel it in your heart, and your heart will be pumping faster, which means that you have to eat for that, because that's using up energy. It's your hamster wheel. And so you have to eat for the climate change. You have to eat for the climate change in here, up there, and release the demons and deal with pain and suffering. And so that's how the micro and the macro work together. Okay? And so you see even the reals, harmonic resonance manipulation frequency on. And so they're showing you how the CERN or the heart works. Was it geoengineering, NextRad? And so weather enhancement, Dubai was proof right there. And so I said about the Men in Black, basically you are filled with alien-like microbes that are under attack from oncology and the medical holistic energy healing world, using direct energy weapons like Rife machines at the micro level and the earth level. So then you see those direct energy weapons that people speculate start fires and whatever else, but you can't prove it. And so that was the allegory about you and what the system is trying to do, which is the Men in Black movie with Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. You can release your own demons without attacking yourself, but it's painful. And it requires food, rest, sleep, and retention or release. Okay, so you can release your own demons without having to go and cut into yourself. You can release your own demons, but that is painful. And it requires food, rest, and release, and the buy-in of your family and friends that are around you. Because they have a trouble handling pain and suffering. And if they have trouble handling pain and suffering, and they're around you, they won't be able to handle you going through the pain and suffering, and they will want you to get treated very quickly. Or else you'll be radiated, inevitably out of existence, if that's how you choose to go out. Everything is allegory. The movies are allegory about what the system is and who you are to the system and what the system is to you. This is abstract thinking. Some people are very literal. They can't understand allegory unless it's only the Bible. So again, those that only read the Bible and Revelations and they can't read anything else except for that have blinded themselves to probably 99.99% of the world. Which is why it'll be easier to take them out, because they can't listen to anything else but the Bible. They can't even listen to me. But who am I, right? I'm not some Hollywood star or some government official. So that's why I posted that reel that I made about OJ Made in America, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, Men in Black, Chemtrails Worldwide, September 11th. All right. And so there's this guy, this was posted in the Died Suddenly group, vaccination expert, Dr. Alfredo Victoria, died suddenly at age 42. All right, so here we go. Starting, well, it's been starting. This is why you must understand both arguments and all arguments, or you'll be left with egg on your face. To put all your hopes in getting a V or not getting a V was already the wrong mentality. You had to take into account climate change. You had to understand particle acceleration. If you do not factor in environments, all environments, not only would you have a major blind spot, but you could also be thoroughly exposed, called died suddenly. Climate change is making every therapy on turbo. In a slow frequency environment, the therapies were relatively safe. There was always exceptions, but climate change has made every therapy turbocharged, causing accelerated growth. Anytime your immune system activates, it will also be influenced by the environment it is in, not just in your body, but also in your external environment. Everything in your environment, internally and externally, is a factor when it comes to cancer. Particle acceleration. It means accelerated growth. The winners will be losers and the losers will be winners. The times they are changing. Thank you, Bob Dylan. Everyone will get a chance to win when the polls flip. So those that were so heavily into pro-V, V-A-C-C-I-N-E, well, you might be questioning whether or not you should have taken that one side. And maybe you should have considered both sides and stopped pushing things on people because you don't know what someone it can handle, what they can't handle. And you have no idea their background and their medical history. Those who pushed everyone to get V'd will wonder if they made the wrong decision. Those who decided not to get V'd and still experience accelerated growth in cancer can't figure out why. So they'll say it's shedding. They'll say it's somebody shedding. Okay. It didn't matter what you did. If you couldn't eat and release enough for the environment, it was a losing venture. So here we are. Climate change was the hidden hand, hidden in plain sight. Your denial is their power. Your biases are their power. Your aggressive reactions are their power. Because remember, when the hidden hand accelerates the particles and you feel stuff, and then people do what they do. They take their drugs, take their alcohol, they do their operations, and they retaliate against what they think is an attack. And then the system does whatever it does. You react, and that's mutually assured destruction. But the system isn't dying. You are. And so this kid, a 4-year-old Strongsville girl, dies after experiencing cold symptoms, the death of the firstborn. And so the HAARP, the high frequency transmitter used to radiate extremely low frequency ELF or very low frequency VLF, and then wave generation via modulating heating. Yeah, that's HAARP. ELF, ULF, VLF. Yeah. And so, yeah, this lady in Africa, or not in Africa, she's in the UK. A mom has passed away just 5 days after giving birth to her second child. And so what did she die from? Brain aneurysm. You think when you have a brain aneurysm and something is trying to push blood clots through your brain and they can't push it, and then you have a blood clot and a brain, yeah, rupture, right? So are your blood vessels strong enough to push out demons like mucus, poop, even a child? There will be more of this. Aggressive growth from particle acceleration and malnutrition has caused this. Everything is a factor. All remedies thin the blood or deactivate necessary aggressive release processes. Okay? All remedies thin the blood or deactivate necessary aggressive release processes. People are not conditioned for the environment and the aggressive release process. Giving birth is an aggressive release process. You must condition for the hidden hand. And that's what you were not told, because if you don't believe in climate change, then you won't understand it. And so if you want to survive and you want your children to survive climate change, something significant must change in your lifestyle and beliefs. Evolutionists have a chance if they support the changes properly. Creationists might have an issue with evolution. I wish you all Godspeed. And so, here we go. The Men in Black. Now I'm going to read this whole thing. And you will see where I'm coming from. You can make anything mean anything you want. And sometimes a banana is just a banana. Sometimes a banana is something else. Most of you are the reason why they don't let you remember. You keep dying and reproducing, making the same mistakes over and over and over again. You're like, oh, am I a mistake? Well, if you don't fucking change, yeah. That's why you don't fuck with the government. Watch out for the Men in Black. They are the hidden hand. Let people build a case for their own future, and we can watch it happen. You can't change people. Most people refuse to change, and we get to see the evidence played out before us. So you don't need Johnny Cochran when people give you the evidence. They will admit they are drug addicts, alcoholics, and have issues with food. And they won't change, and they'll tell you that. They will say food is poison, and they'll tell people food is poison. It's all over their Facebook. You don't need Johnny Cochran anymore. People will give you the evidence, building a case for their own future diet suddenly. And they will tell you their children have food allergies and other allergies and can't handle food, building yet another case for future diet suddenly. And they will tell you how many times their kid went to the hospital, getting operations and organs taken out one by one, basically their immune system. So they get their spleen taken out, they'll get their appendix taken out, they'll get their tonsils taken out. They'll take everything out from their system that was basically their defense system, and they wonder why their kids die suddenly. Basically their immune system. And they think their kid's going to survive with less their immune system organs. When they don't teach their kids how to cough and sneeze and blow their nose and eat all food, but don't worry, the system will give them a justifiable reason like a pandemic. Or they can blame the air, food and water and therapies. Or blame people who didn't take a therapy. But in reality, it's the starvation and these children. It's what's causing their diet suddenly and constant trips to the hospital. And they are so proud of it. Just watch people's Facebook. I've seen more than I need to see. You don't need to be a good lawyer to see the evidence displayed in front of you. The last 3 years was evidence enough. And since most children are fighting conditions, it will just be acceptable to most people that kids don't survive the future. You already laid the groundwork. The system just finishes it up. You can't survive without evolution. You can't survive without being in some kind of pain and suffering, especially when you come in with deficiencies in climate change. You can't survive without food, water, and air. You really can't survive with food allergies. That right there is laying the groundwork for a diet suddenly in the future. But it is socially acceptable, diet suddenly, when you have food allergies. It's socially acceptable to replace milk with soy. It's socially acceptable to take meat out of a child's diet. It is socially acceptable to give kids only organic food and that's it. And the kid is starving on their gluten-free diets and they have a shitty release process because mommy gave them remedies to stop the body from releasing. She gave them cough suppressants and everything else under the sun. Yeah, we did it to ourselves. Men in Black by Will Smith. Here comes the Men in Black. It's the Men in Black. Oh, here comes the Men in Black. Here comes the Men in Black. They won't let you remember. Nah. The good guys dress in black. Remember that. Okay? They are the good guys. They're protecting Earth from the useless eaters. Just in case you was ever face to face and made contact, the title held by me, Men in Black, means what you think you saw, you did not see. So don't blink. Be what was there is now gone. Black suits with the black Ray-Bans on. Walk in shadows, move in silence. Guard against extraterrestrial violence. But yo, we ain't on no government list. We straight don't exist. No names and no fingerprints. Saw something strange, watch your back. Because you never know quite where the Men in Black is at. And here comes the Men in Black. Galaxy Defender. Here comes the Men in Black. They won't let you remember. Now from the deepest of the darkest of night, on the horizon, bright light enters sight, tight, camera zooms on the impending doom. But then like boom, black suits fill the room up. With the quickness, talk with the witnesses. Hypnotizer, neuralizer, vivid memories turn to fantasies. Ain't no Men in Black, can I please? Do what we say, that's the way we kick it. I see my noisy cricket gets wicked on ya. We're you first, last, and only line of defense. We're your first, last, and only line of defense against the worst scum of the universe. So don't fear us, cheer us. If you ever get near us, don't jeer us. We're fearless. Men in Black freezing up all the flack. What's that stand for? Men in Black. The Men in Black, the Men in Black. Let me just see you bounce it with me. Just bounce with me, bounce with me, bounce with me. Come on, let me see you just slide with me, slide with me, slide. Come on, let me see you just take a walk, talk a walk with me. Just walk with me. Take a walk with me. Come on, make your neck work. Now freeze. Here come the Men in Black, Galaxy Defenders. Here comes the men in black. They won't let you remember. Already, check it. Let me tell you this in closing. I know it might seem imposing, but trust me, if we ever show in your section, believe me, it's for your own protection. Because we see things that you do not see, and we be places that you need not to be. So go with your life. Forget that Roswell crap. Okay? They're telling you that aliens don't exist. It's the people around you who are fucked up, who will hurt you if given the opportunity. So go with your life. Forget the Roswell crap. Show love to the black suit, because that's the men in black. That's the men. That's the men. Here comes the men in black. Galaxy defenders. Here comes the men in black. Oh, here they come. They won't let you remember. Here comes the men in black. Here comes the men in black. All right? So there you go. It's those that are so full of microbes, and they hate you because you're different, and they'll hurt you because you're different, and they'll resist you because you're different. They won't read any other storyline, and they will attack you if given the opportunity. That's who the men in black defend, is those who are victims of those types of people. People who can't change, people who are in resistance, that harm themselves, harm their children, and you see all over the news, people who harm their children, people who harm themselves, that believe that everyone should die someday. But if you want to die, it has to go through government war proxies. It has to be FDA approved. You can't just take somebody out. But that's who the men in black are defending, are those who are victims of those who are intolerant. And they have to go and regulate people who are fucking out of this world, out of their minds. And again, if given the opportunity, would do harm to somebody else. They say it in their words. They are gleeful that some other nation and people are dying. They like somebody's death. They like somebody's suffering. And so the men in black are your friends. But you have to live an exemplary lifestyle. So that way you're showing the system you're nothing like these things that they're trying to eradicate from this earth. And again, we have intolerant people. Very intolerant people. And the system has given you all the tools to show how intolerant you are to the air, food, and water, different cultures. And they even pretend to be the enemy just to see what you would fucking do. And just look at people's Facebook. So again, if you think the government is attacking you and harming you, you're doing worse to yourself than what the government will ever do. They've given you a choice. Has the government ever forced any therapy on me? No. Has the government ever said you have to take a painkiller when I was in pain the last 3 years going through my evolution? No. They left me the fuck alone. It's when you want to take away someone's pain and suffering and take their life down notches by notches where the government gets involved. When you're claiming you have a cure, when you're claiming that you have an herbal remedy, when you're claiming all this stuff, that's when they get involved. But if you can handle air, food, and water and evolution, they leave you the fuck alone. But if you can't handle it, then they get involved. Because then you become predatory. But fine, if you want to take down your family and your friends, it has to be, again, through government war proxies. And so you are the aliens the system is trying to regulate. If you don't fucking realize that, fine, you'll take yourself out, but the government will watch you take yourself out. And you can't take other people down with you unless it's through, again, the government resources. That's the world you live in. And so that's why I just kind of stay unto myself. People don't understand where I'm coming from. They don't get me. And I understand that. And there's so much intolerance out there. And denial. That's the worst of it, is the fucking denial that I'm just like, how do you blind your eyes to another storyline? How do you even just ignore another argument around science? How do you fucking do that? But people do. Because they can't handle another reality, and you can't wake them up. You can't force them to wake up, because if they actually did wake up, they probably couldn't handle it. So that's why they're organic. That's why they do all their remedies. That's why they do all their surgeries. That's why they don't eat meat, because they can't handle the pain of life. That's why they don't listen to indicators. That's why people are under the influence most of the time. That's why they get lost in distractions and pleasure in paradise, because they can't handle the fucking reality of the life that they have developed. And when it changes, they can't handle even the fucking changes. And when someone says a different story other than what they believe, then they're on the fucking attack. That's why it's dangerous for those that are evolutionary to those who are creationists when you think about it. Because you have to survive, you have to evolve, you have to support the evolution correctly. But those who can't handle evolution, that are really just about creation and that's it, and they believe in dying and reproduction, but they don't want to die today, but they're okay with dying tomorrow, they'll blame you for every single fucking thing that happened in their life. And you'll be the easy scapegoat until they completely destroy themselves. But look at their Facebook. They can't handle air, food, and water. They can't handle diversity. They can't handle any changes that are going on. Any changes that are going on. And they make sure they let everyone know how intolerant they are. So you know who you're dealing with. Good luck, because you're surrounded by the alien agenda. It's your friends and family who can't handle fucking change.